This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work responding to another Ask Prof. Wolff question from our Patreon community. This one comes from John Casella, and it asks a basic question. How can a progressive anti-capitalist movement or politics deal with the problem of capital flight? Let me briefly explain. Very often in the history of capitalism in each country, every effort to tax corporations, to limit and control the exploitation that they practice, has been countered by a threat, sometimes implicit, often very direct and explicit. And here's the threat. If you tax us, if you limit us, if we can't hire children, if we cannot exploit undocumented immigrants, whatever it is that these capitalists are doing, if the government dares to limit them, then the capitalists threaten, we will leave. So, for example, if the city of New York wants to tax big Wall Street businesses, they threaten to cross the river and relocate into New Jersey. If that didn't work, then they would relocate, for example, to Florida. And if that didn't work, they would leave the United States and move to Mexico or China or who knows where. French capitalists do that to the French government, and so forth. And the question John Casella wants us to answer is what happens? What can you do? How powerful is that threat? In my life, where I've encountered this literally numberless times, I've always been struck by the degree to which well-intentioned, well-meaning activists seem to think that this threat by capitalists is somehow definitive, devastating, unrespondable to, can't be overcome, just a disastrous reality. And I would like, as strongly as I know how, to argue against that. And I'm going to do so, first of all, in an abstract way, and then very concretely. Abstract first. A threat is just that. It doesn't mean that whoever threatens can or will carry out the threat. One of the first things that you learn if you follow this material is that the threat is often a bluff. It's an easy thing to do. You hope it solves your problem. In this case, it backs off a progressive movement, or it backs off a government that is influenced by a progressive movement, and that's the end of it. But like all threats, it can be countered. For example, by a counter threat, which plunges the capitalist into the same dilemma, wondering whether it will or will not be carried out, that the government or progressive movement felt in the first place when threatened by the capitalists. What could a government threaten in retaliation that would make capitalists sit up and take notice? Well, there's actually many. Let's begin with a few of them very concretely. And we'll take as a test case the threat of Company X to leave the United States if subjected to a higher corporate profits tax than is currently being charged. We'll leave, say the capitalists, if you dare require us to pay what you think is a fair rate of taxation. Government counter threat. Fine. Leave. But let us explain to you. If you leave, when you resettle somewhere else, you will not be allowed to bring your products back into the United States to sell them. You want to leave the United States as an employer? We're here to tell you you'll be leaving as a supplier to the American market. And if you think you can make up for what you sold to Americans in the rest of the world, good luck with that. Any company thinking of leaving would stop thinking about it in almost 6, maybe 7 seconds. Number 2 counter threat. If you leave, let us be clear. Every official in the United States, from the president on down, will make a special point of moving around the country, holding press conferences, issuing press releases, explaining to the American people that in order to escape taxes, X company left the United States, with the president and the cabinet officials and governors and senators on board, etc. We're going to explain to Americans that they're free to take whatever action they deem appropriate. Continue to buy this company's products now that they've escaped taxes by leaving and leaving behind jobless people, closed factories, decimated communities. You really want that kind of negative publicity? It'll cost you a pretty penny to counter that with an advertising campaign, and it won't work real well either. Number 3, I could go on, but I'll stop with number 3. You threaten to leave? Fine, go. But here's what we're going to do. We are going to convert the factory, the office, the store you leave behind when you leave to escape taxation. We're going to seize it. We're going to use eminent domain, the law that permits us to do that in the welfare of the community. And we're going to reconstitute your business as a worker co-op. We're going to keep your jobs for the people who have them, but they're now going to become the company you once were, and they're going to continue to produce what you once produced, and they're going to be your biggest competitor, and they're going to be able to say, buy from us, because we maintain American jobs, American income, American community. Or you can buy from our competitor, who evaded the taxes we now pay as a co-op in order to make more money at the expense of those it left behind. You really want that? I don't think so. Bottom line here, a society, a government, a progressive movement have many weapons at their disposal. They cannot and should not be intimidated by threats of capitalists to leave. Capital flight is mostly a bluff, counting on the absence of a counter threat and a counter strategy, which a self-developed, self-confident progressive movement could and should deploy in its own defense. This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work.